Mae, are you there?
Hello, it's Dialogue Conspiracy, Dialogue Assassination, and this week we're going to get right on with the show. I have a guest, and those of you who listen every week know the name. It's Louis Tackwood. Louis, I can't believe you're on. You know, it's so far out to have you up here. We have to give some background for those who haven't heard your name, but the regular listeners know all about you. Should we start with your press conference in Los Angeles?
Yeah, you can if you want to, Mae.
In 1971, in October 1971, Louis had a press conference in Los Angeles, and I brought the articles here with me today to read some of the things he said at that time. It was covered in the San Francisco Chronicle, Newsweek, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times. He worked for the Los Angeles Police Department as an informer for 9 years?
Yeah.
9 years. And he surfaced in 1971 because he realized that a lot of the things that were coming down the police department were wrong. And he wanted to tell the American people what was happening. And he made a very patriotic gesture. He came forward and put his life on the line and offered information about how the Los Angeles Police Department plans criminal conspiracies instead of solving them. And he gave many, many proofs of how they plan conspiracies and plant evidence against radicals or against the Black Panthers and turn the blacks against each other. And one of the most interesting allegations had to do with the Squad 19, that he said that in the Republican conventions that would be taking place, this was in October that he spoke in 71, that the conventions that would be taking place the next summer, that there would be a lot of radicals that would be hired as provocateurs, that he would be hiring them to create violence, at which time the government would be overthrown, that Richard Nixon would declare martial law. And at the time, we'll go over some of the original allegations that you made. What were the most important, you think, that people should have responded upon? I might say now, before Louis gets right on, that he asked, and this is in the New York Times, dated October 25th, 1971. I like to give the dates, Louis, so people can look these up. Microfilms at the University Santa Cruz at different universities. October 25th, 1971, informer talks about the police department to prompt radical acts is the lead article. And the allegations he made were present at that time. And he asked Congress to make an investigation and evaluate what he said was happening in this country. And alongside of that, as of March the 8th, 1973, 2 years later, is an editorial in the Washington Post just this last week. We don't talk about the Watergate affair or the caper anymore. It goes into political sabotage and illegal operations, criminal operations that the White House, the government do. This is what you said 2 years ago.
Right. Well, well, Mae, like I stated, before, taking first of all the Panthers, for instance, how we, agents had went in and set them all up. And using the cases in California, the Panther 18, I testified in their case, and they all got acquitted on those charges. And I also said Angela Davis was innocent. We had set her up, and she was acquitted. And Panther was acquitted all across America during those 2 year interim. So it goes to show that the government did have and did participate in a conspiracy to destroy the Panther Party. But it failed on one level, that the people of America, as far as the court's concerned and the law concerned, didn't believe the law enforcement agencies.
Well, when you had a good lawyer, there's a lot of innocent men, though, on death row who haven't had good lawyers. The public aren't outraged enough. It's when the name lawyers come in, the big cases are getting off. What about a poor person?
Well, what I'm saying, Mae, is that most of these people were poor, and they were caught supposedly in the act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of doing one thing or another, either bombings or shooting out with police. In the Panther 18 case, they had a 5-hour gun battle with the police.
Yeah, but you tell me about guys that are up at San Quentin now that are totally innocent that the police are.
See, first of all, they don't come under what you call overall political jurisdiction. They were sent there for political reasons, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And no one cares about them anymore because they were never names.
Yeah, but they were political. They had to get them. They were black. They were out to frame them for some particular reason.
You still can't see them saying the average person in the public, doesn't know who they were because it's so quietly done. the thing with one person is taken out of the community and sent to San Quentin death row. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know.
And they're totally innocent, right?
Right. What is another thing that's amazing is that pardon me, that Watergate should have never happened. Simply because, like, supposedly after my charges I laid out and asked for the investigation, on October 14th, the Secret Service went to KPFK and started their own investigation, which was like 8 months prior to Watergate.
Yeah. So that espionage squad should have been found out long before.
Right. Yet Watergate happened, and then come to find out, I'm going to tell you, some of the nation's top security men who were guarding the president were involved.
Yeah. Well, you were one of the top provocateurs in the country. You were assigned with that espionage team. You had their numbers in the White House. Right.
I know Martin and White, who was James McCord, and...
See, Louis is very modest, and I've always said, I think I've mentioned you. I've been on the air it'll be 2 years in May, and I think I've mentioned you on about 20 programs at least. Almost once a program and something, and you were one of the top agents of the country. You had the name of White, Hunt in the White House. Martin
and White was James McCord and Hunt.
Yeah, when McCord was arrested, he signed in as Martin.
Right.
So that's the team you were working with.
Right. I had gained prominence, as you want to call it, prominence. I was like number 14 in the nation in Agent Provocateurs.
Well, that's when you're selected to kill the President of the United States, you're pretty high up. They trust you. They have to trust you.
Right. It just got to the point where I could no longer stomach the things they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I, at the time, didn't know of your work. You know what I mean? And since then, I have become acquainted with your work, and you are really on the right track. Like on the Bobby Kennedy assassination thing, we were closely associated with that.
Yeah.
To the point where, we were quite a few agents were there that night.
Mm-hmm. When you surfaced and had your press conference in 71, I called up the radio station right away, and I said, I want to meet this man, and you went to a group of people and went into hiding and so forth, and it took us so long to finally get together.
Yeah, I wasn't so much fearful of my life as getting the truth to the public.
To the right people.
So before they got to me.
The tragic thing is that the public, it's all here, all the newspaper articles. Here's the thing from San Francisco Chronicle. You make an allegation here. And they gave you 3 pages in the San Francisco Chronicle, and the people didn't move on this.
Well, what's so amazing is the way they done it, Mae. I'm going to tell you, on one hand, they're saying he passed the lie detector test, and he is telling the truth. On the other hand, they're saying is, well, but you can't believe him.
Well, you see, the actual, I'm writing an article now called Murderville, USA, and it's about the fact that people... The radicals, the people, the blacks, the Chicanos, the students, the anti-war people, everyone should have just come running to you. I just don't understand why they didn't just pick it up and say, this man is telling us something. That's the phenomenon I just don't understand, because I would tell them about my research, and I was on the air, and I've done this research and written to public officials, and they turn you off. Even the people that are supposedly on your side turn you off, and that's why I want to make contact with you.
Well, most of these groups, Mae, I'm going to tell you, feel that they have their thing together, in other words, and they hate to feel that, hey, man, it's going to be infiltrated by the police, And what's amazing is most of these radical groups are fighting the same thing I said existed, yet they say it didn't exist. Yeah. Like on one hand, they're fighting it all their lives in the streets, saying, hey, the police repression, police conspiracies. And then when someone comes and tells them, hey, there is a police conspiracy and there is repression, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But, that can't happen to us.
But not in America. That's it. If I say there's a conspiracy to kill the President Kennedy, they say, oh, yeah, I guess there is some conspiracy. But I say, let me show you how it worked. They say, oh, no, forget it. It couldn't be.
Well, this is nothing new. I'm going to tell you, we sit back in World War II and say, oh, no, it's not going to happen to us. And we watched Hitler take over Germany.
Yeah.
We watched Hitler take over the world. And then we finally said, oh, it's happening.
And it keeps going on. Tell about the CCS at Los Angeles. There's certain terms and things that people really don't understand that were written in your article then that are so pertinent now.
Oh, you mean like...
the offices down there, what they
criminal conspiracy section is like the political arm of the Los Angeles Police Department. It was created by L.J. Younger before he went to Sacramento. It deals specifically, with political conspiracies, not so much in the sense of stopping them before they happen, but in the the state where we will create some. You know what I mean? If none is happening, we just go out and create a few.
Yeah.
And then there's SI&I, which is like Special Investigation Identification. Those are like the goon squad of the police department.
You call them the Gestapo.
Yeah, the Gestapo, because they watch not only the police department, but all political organizations, plus a lot of businessmen. You know, they keep an eye on everybody. They're above and beyond, you know, they're above and beyond the police department. And then there's SID, which is like the District Attorney's Office, it's a Special Identification Division. And those are real Gestapo because they carry automatic weapons and you never know who they are. Now, they watch everybody, including, you know, CCS and SI&I. Then there's intelligence, and they all are special equipped men who all they do is gather intelligent information on everybody. Like the big brother's watching you.
And if they want somebody, they just plant evidence against them, go out and get them. They just sit and have a conference. Intelligence
will if somebody wants somebody, they'll give information from them to another unit. What's amazing, all of these organizations, no matter what office they're in or what place they're at, all have the same heading on the door: public relations.
Public relations.
Yeah, public relations. And if the public has been aware of what's been happening in the last 2 years, almost everybody who's been involved in a conspiracy or have gotten arrested in conspiracies or whatever, from the IT&T incident all the way to the Watergate incident, always with public relations.
Yeah. The Mullen, the public relations firm in Washington that Howard Hunt worked for was Howard Hughes and ITT. But the thing that I never understood, there were so many trials going on up in the Bay Area that were conspiracies, you know, and you mentioned them, and the lawyers up there wouldn't respond to them. They didn't want to touch conspiracy, you know. Like yesterday, Rochelle McGee wound up his case, and then all of a sudden, about an hour before it was to close, they wanted to get hold of Tackwood, you know.
Right.
Ramsey Clark's calls, all of them want Tackwood. It's 1 hour before they're winding up the case, and they've had all this time, and you've made it so clear to them.
It's like I think we were talking about at your house tonight. It's not that they don't want to touch conspiracies. It's that the people who hire Ramsey Clark and who are working supposedly for the freedom of McGee and anybody else in the Bay Area, I'm going to tell you, these people know that there are others involved who, if I came forward, you know what I mean?
And told the
whole story, that the real conspirators would go to jail. And, you know, like, and this is what they're afraid of.
So they keep their friends out so that innocent men will die.
Right, and they'll sit back and hope that 12 men on the jury will say, well, maybe this guy really didn't do it, you know what I mean? And this is what's been happening.
If they're lucky, their friends get off and the other men don't die either, right?
Right. And it's amazing how much, like, you know, the other day we were sitting there and his calls from Los Angeles and things. Hey, Ramsey Clark's looking for you. He's been calling from Washington and things. Hey, I would tell you, like, I worked on Ramsey Clark at one time.
Yeah.
You know, and why wait till the last minute?
Yeah, just before the jury is supposed to go out. Oh, I see the lines. We'll take some calls in a minute. I just want you to talk. You want to take one call, and then we'll talk about your book. Yeah.
Look, I was in the insurance business.
No. Listen, let me ask you, talk about the book that you have coming out soon, the Glasshouse Tapes, what it's going to be about, so people can look forward to...
Yeah, well, in the Glasshouse Tapes, I'm going to tell you, we try to explain the overall position the police departments and the law enforcement are in today. We show how conspiracies are really actually taking place, how to see and understand what a conspiracy is. We deal with the new IT&T phone tappings and the new Bell systems they have, the phone tappings. We show how in the last 20 years, I'm going to tell you how politically inclined the police departments have gotten, how far right they've gone. You know? They talk about law and order, but all the Klan talked about law and order too. See, so
they're breaking all the laws in order to get their kind of order.
Right. Well, it depends on what you consider law and order, and for who. See.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to bomb a bank, like you were saying, you sit in a room with the police and they talk about which Bank of America, and then one of you goes out and just goes in and bombs the building.
Right.
And then you'd be sure to leave something that the radicals did it.
Well, this has to do with Middle America. See, once Middle America wakes up, see how I put it to you. Here's people sitting secure in their homes, blue collar and white collar workers. And they see on television, here's been one of our banks where I keep my money bombed, you know.
Yeah.
We need more police. Put these radicals in jail, because what you're showing the people is, as long as they see people have a tendency, as long as it's happening on the other side of town, let it happen. They don't care. So you need more police, we're not going to vote more money in for it because it's happening over there. Well, then you start bombing a few of their banks.
Well, this is the massacre in the middle class, sweeping in on the homestown, killing in Chicago, and the Gulf Coast, the Virgin Islands, and the Sharon Tate thing, coming in the middle of a home in Beverly Hills. This is the kind of thing that the provocateur is doing too.
I'll show you something else that was amazing. You remember how long, for a few years, they were talking about stricter gun control?
Yeah.
But what they did, they waited till after almost 3/4 of, like I said, Middle America had bought up guns, and half the black communities have armed themselves. Then they said we need stricter gun control,
Yeah.
And then what's so amazing is the National Rifle Association comes in and they use their lobbyists and they stop it.
Yeah. But there's enough guns now to go around for.
Oh, a good war can start now.
A good war can start. Yeah. There's so many things, allegations you made a few years ago that are so true, and like the police putting narcotics into the black community.
Yeah, well, in the same interview, if you check the papers, I forget what the issue was. It was in the Times. It is a intelligence officer gets busted with $300,000 in narcotics.
Yeah.
At one time, He said, "Well, I was framed."
Yeah. Well, why does Richard Nixon? It's so funny. Just today, he's coming out for death penalty, and he says the headlines today, the front pages of the papers this morning was mandatory death penalty, and I'm going to be without pity. The title of the article was "Without Pity," and Richard Nixon suggests the death penalty for somebody who hires a killer or involved in sabotage or espionage. Wouldn't he get the mandatory death penalty right off the start?
Well, I'll put it this way to you, Mae. First of all, we got all his top dogs in the Watergate thing that he had. All the Republicans, high-grade Republicans. And I think the way the law reads, if you did conspire, not if you committed the act, but if you conspired to commit the act, so therefore I think Nixon was going on conspiracy himself.
Well, of course, yeah. And this thing that they were planning in San Diego where they, how many people would be killed that you would be responsible for killing? You were employed by the police department. How many deaths did they actually figure they'd need down there?
Well, when it was all over, they figured it'd be bloody. There'd be blood all over the streets. They figured they killed quite a few people.
Well, you see, one of the things to back up what you're saying, and is that down in Miami, this William Lemmer was hired just like you, and he had a press conference in Miami. He went to the Civil Liberties Union, and he had a girlfriend in May that he was driving south from Washington down to Miami to get ready for the conventions. And he said, don't come down to the conventions, there's going to be a bloodbath. See, just like you said, there'd be in San Diego. When it was moved from San Diego to Miami, and this boy was working on the East Coast, the job you would have done, but you had surfaced and exposed it, and nobody took it seriously. And he's telling her there's going to be all these killings and bloodbath, and yet nobody, she didn't report it to police. Nobody seemed to care.
Can I ask you one thing, Mae? I think Nixon got the biggest electoral votes ever, so who believed Watergate?
That's right.
So the Republicans bug a few things. It's like, hey, like the Democrats should have been up in arms, but they didn't.
I know. Because they're in filter too. See, there is many provocateurs.
Media helped create a thing around McGovern, like he was supposed to be the super nut and radical. You know what I mean?
But
pardon me a minute.
Yeah.
And they made Nixon like an angel.
I know.
Richard didn't have nothing to do with anything like that. You know what I mean? But I'm going to tell you, Maurice Stans and the rest of them all belong to the Nixon cabinet. And this I think his cabinet is the most corrupt since Ulysses S. Graham. You know how it was.
I know. It just seems that there'd be grounds for impeachment if it were to be possible because, first of all, they haven't even gone into the Wallace to investigate that murder. Long article in the New York Times today on the Wallace thing and how Mitchell cornered him, and you can't get independent, you'll hurt Nixon, and you'll hurt the cause. They were so afraid of McGovern, and even in 71, at the time you were surfacing, they were really heavy on Wallace, like you can't dare run against Richard Nixon. So finally, when he was getting the Maryland votes that night, and he was getting Michigan, he had to be shot, and it just seems to be the Nixon administration. The article I did in the Realist goes from the Tackwood allegations to the Watergate and says if you go into the Wallace thing, you could remove them.
If a person really looks at the Wallace thing heavily, he can see where the government conspired in that. Because here, a man gets arrested, and 10 minutes later they say, well, he crossed the bridge here and he stayed at this motel, and we knew we suspected him all along. You know what I'm saying? But yet they let him walk up to a candidate who was supposed to be guarding and shoot him.
A candidate who'd take 20 million votes against Nixon. See, that's the thing. Like, we say that there's indifference, and people, Nixon looked beautiful, but I'm sure the Eagleton thing was placed and the Wallace thing, and now he says, well, I've got a mandate to do anything I want, intending to chop all federal budgets and the OEO and everything all along. I think he was so dishonest, the campaign was so...
Well, the people gave him this. See, this is the thing. The people gave it to him because of